Welcome to the game. I'm Russ Cohen. We've got Nikco Riesgo. Nikco, how are you?
Russ, Cohen, happy birthday.
Thanks. And Mike Augello?
Hi.
So let's talk a little baseball. So last night's Mets, the finale of the Met-Braves series was gut-wrenching. It was everything I would hoped it wouldn't be. But I'll be honest, I've been writing, for Full Press all year, and Mike and I talk baseball all the time, and we have this show. And while I was happy with the year they were having, I wasn't deluded into thinking the Braves couldn't catch them, and I wasn't deluded into thinking this is a great year, even if they got 100 wins, because the goal was win the division, and your path is much easier. You don't win the division. Now you're either going to play the Phillies or the Padres at home, and then the next team is the Dodgers. And Nikco, that's not exactly the way you want to do it. You always want to have the best possible scenario, and this is not that for them.
If the road that was less traveled was the easiest way to get to the World Series, we would see the favorite win the World Series every year. And it's not the case, okay? So as long as you're in the game and the mentality that the Mets have, this is the greatest year that the Mets have had in so many years. They need to rally behind who they are, understand who they are, understand this is not about winning the division, okay? That's not their goal, okay? The goal is winning the World Series. That's the goal. That's the number one goal. Now, how do you do that? Now, yes, it makes it a little bit easier if you win that title. However, if you do not win that title, it does not change anything, the dynamics from that goal, okay? Actually, you can use it as an advantage because you go into the series with some momentum. Like you just got through beating the Padres. Now you're getting some momentum, and the Braves have been sitting for weeks, and you can use that momentum and just run right over them. So there's some advantages of playing, and then there's some disadvantages of sitting, and it's all mental. So again, they need to get their mental strength, understand who they are, know it's for the long run, know they've got to beat the Braves in Atlanta, they get to beat the Dodgers in LA. It doesn't matter where they play. They have the mindset is they have to win the World Series, whatever it takes, wherever they got to go. That's their mission.
Yeah, that is the right mindset. And Mike, we know that, and certainly they've talked about that. But when you have a month the way the Mets have had a month and drop those games, and who knows? I don't know what they're going to do against the Nationals right now. They're in a rain delay. I would have to say until they show us the mental state's in question.
Yeah, and right now you have to say, okay, Atlanta has played fantastic. I don't think the Mets have really dropped the ball. They haven't played great in September. There was a series against the Cubs that they didn't play pretty well. They let Atlanta catch them. But they had a double-digit lead at one point. You knew that Atlanta was going to get off the schneid. They did win the World Series. They are an excellent team. But in terms of the focus on the Mets, Marte is out with an injury. You're playing with a shorthanded lineup. They didn't make great moves at the deadline. I know that we both talked about it. With Vogelbach and Ruff. They didn't add a bat that they really needed. And now, with Marte out, their lineup is shorthanded. And when you put in, the organization's top prospect in a series again, with a do or die series, and he goes, I think it was 0 for 8 with 3 strikeouts. Yeah. That wasn't a good decision by management or the manager to put a kid in there when so much was on the line. They had no choice.
They had no choice. Same thing with Vientos. But the bigger thing is when they did nothing good at the deadline and went cheap, Atlanta got smart and they got Jansen. They swapped out Will Smith. Like they got rid of their closer. Imagine a team doing that, Nikco, and risking all of that and having it all work out anyhow with their youngsters too.
Yeah, you definitely don't want to give up your closer here. You definitely need a closer to win the game.
But they have one. Jansen's fine. He seems to be fixed again, and he certainly has won games for the Dodgers and has won a championship, and So I don't think that's a shortcoming anymore.
Well, the thing is, we know that Jansen is not the answer. Once he gets into that situation, he's going to panic and he's going to give it up. That's just who he is.
He didn't in this series. Mike, what were you going to say?
He did in that series, and I know that I was listening to some sports talk radio from New York, and Michael Kay basically said, why aren't they using Iglesias, who they got from the Angels, who is a closer and is better? Jansen really has been a gas can the year and a half or so, and he's pitched okay, and he pitched okay in the series against the Mets, but I don't know how comfortable. I'd feel about as comfortable with him as a Brave closer as I would have as a Dodger closer. He's never been somebody who puts you at ease. He's somebody who will raise your blood pressure to the point of having a coronary. So I wouldn't feel safe with him.
But the Braves also have two guys that could easily have won Rookie of the Year. One of them right now is the pitcher who's on the DL. And it's just unbelievable the amount of talent that this team has. They extended everybody. We could talk about the Dodgers, Nikco, but the Braves could easily repeat here.
Absolutely. The Braves are looking like the World Series champions. I mean, they're in, fifth gear right now, and they're just flooring it. And they're going to be tough to beat. So the Dodgers are going to have to face them. The Mets are going to have to face them. Everyone's going to have to go through Atlanta to win it all. And that's what makes the game so great.
Yeah, I mean, there was, Michael Harris II made a couple of big catches against the Mets in that series. And so their youngsters came through, Mike. And, Mets tried to do that and didn't get the same results.
Yeah, I mean, you have to give Alex Anthopoulos and in Atlanta they've mixed in their kids and they're contributing. I don't know if it's a symptom of Buck not wanting to play younger players, or they just didn't think the younger players were ready. Maybe next year you'll see more of an influx of some of the young players that the Mets do have. I mean, if they do have pitchers, they may do have pitcher prospects. They may need to tap that next year because we know DeGrom's status is uncertain right now in terms of a new contract. But
and Bassett.
The thing is, I mean, the National League right now, I mean, everybody assumes the Dodgers I know the record is fantastic and everybody assumes that they're this juggernaut. They're pitching right now. Gonsolin is coming back after I think it was a tired arm or a shoulder. He's coming back and he had a rehab start in AAA. Now he's making a start tonight. Kershaw is still great and having a really good year, but I think he's pitched less than 100 innings. They're going into the playoffs with Tyler Anderson and
Anderson
Andrew
pitched
Heaney.
Another good game yesterday, though.
Well, I know, but what I'm saying is it's not exactly Walker Buehler.
Right.
And Kershaw, I don't think that they're this unbeatable behemoth. I think they have some chinks in their armor that somebody like the Mets with DeGrom and Scherzer or Atlanta or San Diego or St. Louis, all of them could catch up to them and beat them.
Yeah, St. Louis, I don't know if they have the pitching. I mean, they've been getting some
Probably
great
not.
hitting at a Pujols, but I think the pitching is going to hold them back. But Mike, give me an argument where the Yankees win it all.
Well, I was saying to you today, it's like you can see the pressure crushing Aaron Judge right now. It's understandable. Obviously, he's trying to best Maris, and they can't give him a day off right now because they'd be excoriated. I mean, they're probably going to rest him one game of the doubleheader that they're playing tomorrow against Texas.
He'd be better off if he wasn't. If Maris had this record, right, and it was the California Angels. And Aaron Judge was on the Angels, it'd be a lot easier. But the fact that it's the Yankees and he's a Yankee chasing it, that makes it tougher.
Yeah, and every time he's up to bat, they have to cut into ESPN or MLB Network, and Michael Kay has to give the ident for every single time they cut in. I mean,
they used to do that with Nikco when he was going to steal bases in the Florida State League.
That's right. They had to do that 46 times when I stole those bases.
He was the Alan Wiggins of the Florida State League. No, but But the thing is, I think that it almost will be a relief once the regular season is over with. If he hits 62 or not. But the playoffs will actually probably seem like less of a pressure cooker than his pursuit of Maris or whatever. So it's like, I mean, right now, things are lining up in the sense that they have Severino back and he's pitched well. Cole will be the number one starter. I think that I think the guy who actually could be their secret weapon in the playoffs is nasty Nestor Cortez. He is not the prototypical pitcher. He's a guy who throws junk. Throws junk, but he's got great accuracy. He does his little Louis Tiant act every once in a while, which is entertaining.
Yeah. And look, even Ed Figueroa threw harder than him. I just want to say that.
But his location is unbelievable. Changes speeds in and out. He's effective, and he's a lefty in Yankee Stadium. I mean, I think he's probably going to be the number 2 or number 3 starter behind Cole, who has not had a good year. His ERA is in the mid 3s. And then Severino, if he stays healthy, and he's looked good his last couple starts. The rotation sort of lines up.
It's not great though. The rotation's not great.
It's not great, but there's some concern about the bullpen because they've burned out. I think Clay Holmes, his first half was unbelievable. His second half, I think they used him too much and Chapman.
He got hurt again.
Chapman is a gas can. No, Zach Britton got hurt again.
No, I thought they said Chapman had a comeback or two or something. I got him on the leg.
I didn't see it, but if that's what happened, then they're in even more trouble. But in the bullpen, because they'll need gone are the days that starters go 7 innings. So you're going to need 5 or 6 guys in your bullpen, and they have a few guys who've pitched well, but I think they need Chapman. I think Burton they've shut down for the year. They need Holmes. They need all these guys on hand.
Yeah, actually, I just want to point out Max Scherzer goes 7, but that's fine. Most don't. Aroldis Chapman, he may not be on the playoff roster now.
Well, the way if he's hurt, yeah. I mean, the Wandy Peralta just came back, so But if you're depending on Wandy Peralta and Lucas Litke, then your bullpen isn't exactly top echelon. And they were around midway through the season when they were like looked like they were going to break the 98 Yankees record for most wins. Their bullpen was incredible, and they've had a lot of injuries. Michael King's gotten hurt, Holmes has gotten hurt. They've had a lot of injuries. So
they have. But that's every year with the Yankees now, so you can't always use that as an excuse. That's the last couple of years they've had a ton. Nico, so with Aaron Judge, if the weather is bad in some of these meaningless games, since they've already clinched, and he's just going to try and beat Maris for the record, if you're the Yankees, how far do you go with this? Mike said you sit in one game, but if it gets sloppy out there like it was the other night, and ESPN was almost trying to get them to continue the game, if it's bad field conditions, do you pull Judge anyhow?
You DH him.
Yeah, I guess we lost Nico there, but you could DH him.
No, he's muted. He's muted. You DH him. I mean, if they're going to play in both games of the doubleheader, let them play one game in the field and one game at DH, or even the last 3 games, just DH him. I mean, why not? I mean, if you don't want to risk the, if you think he's a better hitter when he plays in the field, because there are some players who hit better when they're playing in the field, than let him, because he's not only going for the record, he's going for the Triple Crown. I think he's tied with a Rise from Minnesota for the highest batting average in the American League. So he's got a chance of winning the Triple Crown and hitting over 60, hitting 62 home runs.
It's crazy the kind of year he's having. Nico, are you back with us? Nico, all right.
Yeah, no, I'm here. And I'm listening. And like I said, I did predict him to hit the home run and break the record this weekend. And I am shocked that he hasn't done it by now. It is a tremendous amount of pressure. I'm wondering, almost as if he doesn't even want to break it with his relationship with Musial. And I mean, Musial's been around for almost 60 years.
Oh, you mean Maris?
As that name, he doesn't want to. Maris. He doesn't want to, kind of lose his story in the game. So I think it's kind of kind of meant for him not to break it now.
So you think the baseball gods are going to keep him from getting it?
Yeah, I think Maris, I mean, he's been just such a great champion, and to see him there with Judge's mom and to honor him, and I think Maris is going to be around for another 60 years to see if someone can do it again.
Okay.
I don't think it'll be forgotten, but I'm sure Aaron Judge is a very respectful person, and the fact that Roger Maris's son was there with his mom in Toronto when he hit number 61 was a great sight to see. But
yeah, he was there with McGuire too. But what did that?
Yeah, and he, I respect the comments of Roger Maris's son, who said this is the real record. Now, obviously, he's biased because his dad was the one who had the record, or is tied with the record, but he doesn't consider. And I know Major League Baseball will never admit this. He doesn't consider Sosa hitting over 60. He doesn't consider McGuire hitting what he did. He doesn't consider Bonds hitting 73 as valid records. I understand it. I agree with it, but it's never going to change that, because Bonds was never, they never found, he never had a positive test.
Right. Right. Yeah. So we move on from that. We've got the Phillies are still behind the Padres a little bit. They have to win, or the Brewers have to lose for them to get in. They haven't been great, Nikco, but they're hanging on. Wheeler's back. Their pitching after that is very weak. I mean, Gibson is just a gas can at this point. He's been awful. But Ranger Suarez, they have just enough pitching maybe for a 3-game series. The hitting's been weird. Like JT Realmuto has not been great. Rhys Hoskins, Mike, I have to tell you, and I'll tell Kevin Allen every time, has not been great, especially down the stretch. And, Harper's doing what he can. I don't know. I mean, there's still a chance the Phillies don't get it. I think they're getting in, but they still have to win one to get in.
Yeah, they do. And you know what? I do like their chances. I like Aaron Nola tonight. I mean, okay. I really think he's going to get the job done tonight. And if he does get the job done, I like him, in that first round against St. Louis. I like him or Wheeler. I think the Phillies could tank St. Louis.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, and if the Braves slip up, they could take those Braves. So
that's a tall order.
Yeah, it is a tall order. That is a tall order.
The Phillies have done well against the Braves. There have been years they beat them, like in '93, but I don't foresee that this year. But you never know. You could be right. The other thing about the Phillies is
I'll just say I'm not confident with the Phillies. I mean, I think they'll get in, but I think their lineup has some holes. Yeah. And also, I mean, they did get Harper back from that long injury, but past Nola and Wheeler, their pitching staff is
Suarez is good too. Then
Suarez is but I just think that
Falter has come through a little bit.
A little bit for Falter. Look, I'm not even that big of a Nola guy. He's iffy at times. I mean, I think his last start he got tanked too. So it's not like Aaron Nola is what he was a couple of years ago. He's not a true bona fide ace. It's really Wheeler. So, but again, yeah, I think they'll have enough to get in. Milwaukee gave it a good run, Mike. I mean, they made those trades. They gave up some big names, and they managed to hang in the race the whole time.
They did, but I still don't understand the machinations of them. Unless, I think Hader had a year left. Unless there was no chance in hell that they were going to re-sign him. To trade your closer when you were in a playoff race, and you get Trevor Rogers, who was San Diego's closer, and the reason that they were making a trade is because he wasn't a good enough closer. So I didn't understand the move. Maybe they're thinking more of the future than just this year, but it was a strange move.
It was a strange move. So let's talk about the rules for a minute of the playoffs. Mike, I know you kind of dug into that, and I just want to get a feeling of what we think of them, of these changed playoffs. Because look, again, there's going to have to be so many asterisks for baseball because, as an example, like, you know, in the 80s when the Mets were fighting with the Cardinals and sometimes the Cubs and other teams, you know, they would win 90 games, 92 games and not make the playoffs. They just wouldn't make it.
Mm-hmm.
Now, with all the teams making it, like the Mets might win 100 and they can't even win their division. So clearly, you know, it's easier to win games in this era. We have to admit that.
Well, because you have a sizable chunk of the league that is just non-competitive. So it's like what we had in the NHL last year. You had 8 teams in one conference that had over 100 points because there were 8 other teams that were just crap. And then this, you know, you've got the Pittsburghs and the Kansas Cities and the Oaklands that are just, you know, they're getting 65 to 70 victories, and you know, of course, that inflates, you know, what the playoff teams get. But the thing I don't like is that the playoffs are a bracket system. So right now, and I'll just give you briefly here, unless things change, the Astros and the Yankees get a bye. It's right now it's Cleveland who won the Central, is the number 3 seed, and they'll play Tampa, and it's 4-5 Toronto and Seattle, and Cleveland and Toronto will host the best of 3. Now, if Cleveland wins, or if Tampa wins, they don't play if Tampa wins, who's the 6th seed, they don't re-bracket and play Houston. They're going to play the Yankees. So it's locked in that it's Cleveland or Tampa versus New York in the second round, and Toronto and Seattle against Houston. I'm sorry, I think they should reseed. You know, I mean, I know. Now, maybe they're doing that for television purposes. Maybe they're doing it for travel purposes.
I think they're doing it to kind of keep it harder. Like, I think they're trying to make the path harder for that team, you know, that extra team to get in. Don't you feel like that's what they're doing?
I mean, honestly, if I would rather play Cleveland if I were the Yankees, or Tampa, a team that they play 19 times and know like the back of their hand. I would rather play them than play the winner of Toronto, Seattle. I mean, I think the Yankee from the Yankee perspective, they're hoping Toronto or Seattle takes out Houston because they have trouble beating Houston.
Yeah.
So, and in the
I don't love this 3-game series bit though, all in the home park and all in a row. I don't like that. I don't think it's fair.
It's very contrived, and I mean, Nikco, the disadvantage of this 3-game series is, say for example, the Mets are playing San Diego. They have to pitch DeGrom, Scherzer, and Bassett in the 3 games, and if they win both the first 2 and they eliminate them, then they have Bassett to start the next series against the Dodgers. If they had to go 3 games, then who is it? Taijuan Walker or So
because there's no days off.
Right. So that's a big disadvantage to those teams.
Now, if they win the first 2 with DeGrom and Scherzer, they will get a day off, won't they?
Sure. Yeah, but they're facing, you know, Yu Darvish and Blake Snell, and, you know, it's not a guarantee that's going to happen.
Right.
No, but that would be ideal, that they would go through there. They're at home. They win the first 2. They get a rest. They got Bassett leading against the Dodgers. I kind of like that. I would like that, to get that early lead, let him take out the Dodgers' best, and then, boom, they follow it with DeGrom will be back healthy again. Scherzer, 4 days rest is fine. And, bam, they're in a good position to face the Dodgers. I like their position.
All right. I mean, most teams aren't stacked the way the Mets are with starting pitching. But with the Mets, they probably could weather it. A team like the Phillies can't weather it. Like, and even a team like if the Yankees were to go 3, which they don't have to, they would have most teams would have a hard time weathering that. They would.
And, you know, the one thing that the teams that have won divisions and are 1 or 2, the thing that they have to be concerned about is the layoff of 5 days.
Right.
And, you know, when you're used to playing every day like they've done since the All-Star break, to have 5 days, you know, I've heard Aaron Boone, I've heard other managers say that they're going to simulate games during those 5 days, but I don't care what you simulate. It's not live action.
No.
So
it's not a bad idea, though. It'll be like the alternate training site for the guys that just weren't playing anything. It's better than doing nothing. They're just going to have the guys report to the ballpark every day for a few hours. I mean, I get it. It's something, but we'll see. We'll see what this is about, what it's like. I think the only reason I could come up with for the 3 in a row is TV.
Yeah. Well,
right, Nikco? That seems like made for
TV. I would
right?
say TV in a row and also travel. I mean, they just don't want to go back and forth with the travel cost and the expense. They're trying to save as much as they can. Just call it penny pinching.
And I also think they don't want to play World Series games in November, so they want three games as quickly as possible. The second round is going to start, I think, October 11th. So,
by the way, we'd have to point out, like, the World Series would be over already in previous years by October 11th.
Right. Well, yeah. What was it? October 1st?
That's right. That's why we got Mr. October. Now we need a Mr. November.
Well, there was Derek Jeter.
That's Derek Jeter. Yeah. But
they're hoping not to do that again.
a couple days ago was the anniversary of Babe Ruth supposedly calling his shot, and it was October 1st. So
right.
Yeah.
I mean, but that's a long, long time ago. I mean, I have a picture here of, like, Jesse Orozco, and actually that ran long, and that was October 28th for that year. So I think that was because a lot of rainouts. But by the 15th or so, the whole league would be wrapped up in some years. And I don't know. I mean, I think this does have a chance to go to November still.
Yeah, I don't know. I didn't see the layout of the schedule, but I mean, if you have series going the full 7, then more than likely it will.
Well, the NLCS and ALCS will be 7 for sure.
Sure. Oh, it could. You're right. It could.
So, and they've added 2 more layers now. It could. It still could run into November. We'll see. We'll see what the Mets do. We'll see what everything else, what happens, and we'll keep an eye on it. And that's it for the game. We'll catch everybody next time.
My man.